All right, guys, welcome back. I'm Jake Ellenbogen, and today we are going to be talking about the 53-man roster. I didn't do a projection last week. The reason being is because I didn't want this to be an every week thing, and I think this is going to be the last 53-man roster projection I do. I feel very good about this. I'm not saying it'll be a 53 out of 53, but I should get the majority of them correct. We'll find out. You guys can grade me after the fact, but be sure to like, subscribe, and comment. Also, be sure to follow me on all social media at JKBogan, including Instagram, TikTok, Twitter, Kick, and Twitch. So we'll dive right into it. I have the Rams keeping three quarterbacks, Matthew Stafford, Jimmy Garoppolo, and Stetson Bennett. I think Dresser Wynn is likely going to play the majority of week 3 in the preseason. I think Stetson Bennett has done a ton, and I don't necessarily feel like the Rams want to just throw him out there. Now, he'll probably start, but if he only plays a half, I wouldn't be surprised. He is got this locked up. Was that the case initially? I wouldn't necessarily say that. But he's shown you everything we heard in the offseason is true. This is a player that has gotten a lot better, and therefore I feel very good about saying he's going to make the 53. No changes there. That means Dresser Wynn will be the odd man out. I do believe he'll be cut. He is a camp arm, and I don't expect him to be on the practice squad. He's just kind of a guy that's on speed dial. If they need another quarterback, familiarity, they'll probably call him. So moving on to the running backs, we have the Rams keeping 3. Now, this is a little bit different from the last time I had Cody Schrader being kept. I only have the Rams keeping 3 running backs, Kyron Williams, Blake Corum, and Jarquez Hunter. Cody Schrader is a player I like a lot, but I think the Rams are in a tough position here. You'll find out over the course of this video, but I just don't think that they can afford to keep 4 running backs. They can add him to the practice squad in all likelihood. He could be picked up by his former 49ers team, but that's the risk that you run. And I think, unfortunately, as much as I like Cody Schrader, it doesn't really make any sense to keep him when you have 3 running backs that are, pretty deep, and you can trust all 3 to a degree. Jordan Waters also is cut in this one, but I could see both of them back on the practice squad. At least one of them, I would imagine, would be. We'll find out. Cody could be claimed, but this is what happens when you build probably the best roster in the Sean McVay era, at least like all across the board. It's going to be hard to make this 53. I don't know how many times I've said that. As much as I like Cody Schrader, I don't think he's going to make it based on the decisions that they have ahead. I didn't mention Ronnie Rivers because I think Ronnie Rivers is just going to slide on the IR, and whether this is a long-term thing or a short-term thing, I think the Rams will keep him in the building. They like him a lot. They've spent a lot of time with him. He's kind of a coach's favorite from what I've heard, so I do expect them to keep him in the building, but he'll be on IR to start the season. Wide receiver, I have them keeping 5. So initially I had Konate Mumfield, but now I only have them keeping Devontae Adams, Puka Nacua, Tutu Atwell, Jordan Whittington, and Xavier Smith. Now, Konate Mumfield was a draft pick from Pittsburgh, and that was the receiver they went out and got, and we talked about them going after a receiver. We know that they wanted receivers in this one, like a Tet McMillan and, of course, Emeka Ibuka. But they decided to only go after Konate Mumfield. And so one would have to believe, that's probably going to be the guy they go after. Here's the deal. Mumfield is a good player, and I think he has a future in this league and very well could have a future at the Rams. But this is such a hard 53. And unfortunately, does it make any sense to keep 6 wide receivers and, be weaker in a spot? Or maybe he's not one of the best 53, because I actually did not expect to feel this way. And I know Mumfield had reps during the offseason and everything with the ones, but I came away really impressed with Xavier Smith. I think he's made the most noise. And so I think he is going to make this roster pretty easily. Also has that special team ability. Mumfield can block. He can run routes. He can create separation. He caught a touchdown. It's not anything that he didn't do. I just don't know if this roster, unfortunately, is going to keep 6 receivers. So I have him missing the cut. I have Britton Covey, Mario Williams, Drake Stoops, True Edwards, and Brennan Presley. I do expect the Rams to bring True Edwards onto the practice squad as well as Brennan Presley. We'll see about the other guys. I think all of them are in play. Britton Covey, unfortunately for him, it was a great situation, but Xavier Smith, I think, is running away with, this battle. He can return, and of course, you saw the offensive ability. So, X Smith, he's a lock to make the roster, in my opinion. Konate Mumfield could. I could see them keeping 6, but it was hard for me. I went back and forth. He was on my roster bubble for a reason. I have him missing it. Tight end, I have him keeping all 4. I've called Davis Allen a lock in the past. I don't know if he's a lock anymore. The reason being is because this is, again, a really tough roster. And if Terrence Ferguson's good to go by week 1, I could see them trying to slide Davis Allen on the practice squad. There's only one other tight end on this roster, in Mark Redmond, who could be on the practice squad. But I could see them trying to slide Davis Allen, who's been in the league now. This will be his 3rd season. So that might be an easier thing, to do than maybe giving credit for. Then you move on to the offensive line. And again, I have them keeping Davis Allen for the time being. So that's 4. But you move on to the offensive line. I am not changing my opinion on this one. Alaric Jackson remains on track, but I don't know what on track means. Does that mean he's ready to go by the end of the year? Does that mean he's ready for the middle of the year? Does that mean he's ready for week 1? I am going to proceed with caution here and assume that the Rams are as well. Alaric Jackson, to me, is a physically unable to perform list guy through and through. He's going to miss the first 4 games. They're not going to rush it. And then DJ Humphries will start those first 4 games. And if he struggles, they also have David Questenberry, who's played very well in preseason. Probably one of the better offensive linemen in the league in preseason when you look at the PFF grades. But DJ Humphries will start at left tackle. The rest will remain the same. Steve Avila at left guard, Coleman Shelton at center, Kevin Dotson at right guard, Rob Havenstein at right tackle. Who will they keep after that? Because I have them keeping 5 there, obviously. Bo Limmer, Warren McClendon Jr., David Questenberry, as I mentioned, Willie Lampkin, and KT Leviston, who had a very good preseason game 2, was good in game 1, really stood out in game 2, was actually the highest grade player on the Rams. So I am not going to be surprised if they keep 10. Could see them keeping 11. With this roster, I don't know if they can, but I like that nonetheless. Justin Diedick, unfortunately, just misses the cut. He could very well be claimed, so that is definitely going to be a tough one. He's had a great preseason. He's also played in games and started games in the NFL. I think they can put him back on the practice squad, but we'll see what ends up happening. Dylan McMahon, he's been banged up, hasn't really had much of an opportunity. He'd probably be an easy one to slide back on the practice squad unless the former team that he was with, the Philadelphia Eagles, decide they want him back. AJ Arcuri is another one that could be added on the practice squad. I don't think they do that, and the reason being is because they have Questenberry, McClendon, Havenstein, Humphries, and then, of course, Alaric Jackson on the PUP list. That's a lot of tackle depth and not really a necessity to keep a tackle on the practice squad. Wyatt Bowles, this guy, I'll tell you right now, I want to put him on the 53. I just don't have enough room for him. He is absolutely just showing out, in the preseason. And, this is a guy that, really stood out, at, Nevada State. And so that's the thing is that, I don't know. I think, or Utah State, Nevada State, Utah State. This is a player I like a lot, but I think they'll be able to add him onto the practice squad. So I'm going to say that he does not make the team. Same with Ben Dooley and Trey Wettig. All of these guys have an opportunity to be on the practice squad. The Rams, they have to like what they have in that offensive line room. They've done a really nice job in the preseason, and unfortunately, some of those really talented players will not make the team, and that's just the problem when you have a good roster like the Rams do. Moving on to the defensive side of the ball, I have them keeping 6. I went back and forth. Is it 5? Is it 6? They're going to use a lot of rotation here with Turner, Ford, Fisk, and then, Davis and Hamilton. Hamilton being their designated nose tackle on this roster, but Desjuan Johnson is probably one of the most, if not the most impressive interior defensive lineman in preseason. The job he's doing, he has 6 pressures tied with Bobby Brown, former Rams defensive lineman. He's doing such a great job, and you could start to see really the pass rush tools start to develop. And so, unfortunately for Laryl Murchison, I have him on the out here. And the reason being is Desjuan is younger. Desjuan is, building more of a pass rushing repertoire, whereas, Laryl Murchison's more of a run defender. And I think that they really want that. So it's going to be hard to kick Desjuan off this roster. I think the good thing is Laryl Murchison should be able to be obtained and added back on the practice squad, since you have a maximum of 6 on the practice squad that you can keep out of your 16 that essentially are as old as whatever, right? Doesn't matter if they're young, doesn't matter if they're old, doesn't matter if they've been in the league for 10 years or 1 year. You get 6 players who you can have unlimited. So Laryl Murchison's been around the block, but he can come back on the practice squad and be a veteran. And I expect the Rams to potentially do that if he doesn't have interest around the league, which he very well could. Bill Norton is the other one that's cut, as well as Dejon Terry, who is a practice squad candidate, Decarius Hawthorne, and Jack Heflin, who I will be shocked if he's not on the practice squad. Having a great preseason. Unfortunately, I don't think there was ever a roster spot for him to earn, but he's really made his presence known, and I think the Rams will keep him in the building. But we move on to the outside linebackers. I have the Rams keeping 5. I can't see them keeping 4. That just seems too thin, and 6 is too much. Jared Verse, of course, Byron Young, Josiah Stewart, Kier Thomas, and Brennan Jackson. So I decided to cut Nick Hampton last time I did this, and I'm sticking with it. Hampton could be added to the practice squad, or he could be claimed through cut day. I wouldn't be surprised if he was claimed. Josh Piercy and Jamil Muhammad, who I could also see added to the practice squad because he's having a good preseason, just not a ton of reps. Look out for Jamil Muhammad to have a really good preseason showing in week 3 when he finally gets the reps. Inside linebacker, this one was interesting here. I decided to go with 4. And unfortunately, there's no easy way to say this, but actually there is. And I understand, some people aren't going to like this, or they are. Nate Landman, I have Omar Spates, Chris Paul Jr., and my 4th and final is Sean Dolak. And I went back and forth on this, and I've said Troy Reeder is a lock, and he is. He's absolutely a lock to be a Ram, but I think he's going to be a practice squad guy because this is somebody that is a seasoned veteran who really isn't garnering a ton of interest around the league, but the Rams love him. And so he's not making much more than some of these other guys. I mean, he's making what? Only $200,000 more than Sean Dolak. He's making less than Tony Fields II. A lot of people don't know that. So because Troy Reeder signed a veteran minimum deal, it's not like you're on the hook for a ton of money. I actually am going to say that the Rams cut Troy Reeder and sign him to the practice squad the very next day. And it goes along the same lines as Laryl Murchison. It makes way too much sense. You can keep a guy like Sean Dolak at least for a week or two, and, then you don't have to worry about losing a talent like that. Or you can keep Troy Reeder and then run the risk of losing a guy like Sean Dolak. I mean, who's more likely to help the Rams in 2026, 2027, 2028? It's Sean Dolak. And I understand this roster is built to win a Super Bowl, and Troy Reeder is a more experienced, and probably he's a better player than Sean Dolak to a degree as it stands right now, with Sean Dolak never going up against first team. Well, that's not true. He went up against the Chargers, but never playing in the regular season, right? I think that's definitely fair. That said, last year, you want to point to an example where this has happened? Akello Witherspoon was actually a practice squad guy, and he was elevated for 3 games before they signed him in the active roster. Troy Reeder could be elevated for the first 3 games, and then if they really want to bring him onto the roster and keep him on the 53, that's enough time that's gone by where if Sean Dolak hasn't really done anything, they can just slide him onto the practice squad. And I believe you can protect, 4 players every week from being added to other practice squads. So Sean Dolak, I think, is going to make this roster. And maybe this is just wishful thinking. And again, I don't dislike Troy Reeder like everyone else. I think he has a role on this team as a depth, more so a veteran presence type of guy. But he doesn't have to be kept on the 53 over Sean Dolak when Dolak is more likely to be claimed. And Troy Reeder, he doesn't get claimed. He doesn't have to test waivers. So that's the thing, is that what would you rather do if you're the Rams? Keep Troy Reeder on the 53, making about $1 million, a little bit over $1 million, or and run the risk of losing Sean Dolak. And like I always say, assume he goes to the 49ers, Cardinals, Seahawks, somebody like that. Or would you rather just cut Troy Reeder, keep Sean Dolak, and know that Troy Reeder is not going to get claimed because he's a free agent at that point? And unless he holds a grudge against the Rams for cutting him, he's going to be back. He just is. He's going to sign a deal to be on the practice squad. They're going to tell him, look, you are going to be elevated on game day the first 3 weeks, and you will be playing over Sean Dolak on the depth chart. I think it's a no-brainer. So that's what I have there. Elias Neal and Tony Fields II, look out for them to be on the practice squad. There's only a limited amount of spots, so if push comes to shove, I think they go with Neal, who's 3 years younger, but that's neither here nor there. But next up, we have the cornerback room. This was not easy. Not easy at all. A lot of these guys, if not all of these guys, are going to have a ton of interest around the league. Ahkello Witherspoon, Darius Williams, Kobe Durant, Emmanuel Forbes Jr., lock them in. They are guaranteed to make this team. But who's the fifth corner? I decided to go with AJ Green. I think he offers the most on the outside. And I'm going to explain exactly why this doesn't have to be just a solo move. There is a method to my madness. If Ahkello goes down, or Darius Williams goes down, or Kobe goes down, you have a guy that can play the perimeter, and he's physical, and he's made really some fantastic plays in preseason. He was picked on by Justin Herbert. He really held his own. He's had a great camp. He's had great joint practices. Obviously, you had Ahkello Witherspoon rocking his jersey before the game. There is some love here for AJ Green, and I think he is going to make this team. And, you know, when you look at the pecking order, I think he's pushed ahead of all these guys, and it's hard to say because, you know, Darion Kendrick is a player I like a lot, but I don't think he's going to make this team. I just don't. I would love to see him on the practice squad. I think he'll get claimed. I think he'll probably go to Arizona, Seattle, or the 49ers, to be honest with you. That's just the way I see it. I could be wrong, but I think this is probably the last game upcoming that Darion Kendrick plays as a Ram, but we'll see. Always loved him. You know, I not loved him, but liked him on this team and appreciated him and felt like he, you know, didn't get necessarily the most fair shake from the fans. And I get it. You know, he had a lot of penalties and what have you, but I think he's a good corner and can play in this league. Charles Woods is going to be a tough one to add on the practice squad because, again, I think he's a really talented player they want to keep around, but you really can't. You want to keep all these guys, right? I think there's going to be a team around the league that definitely considers adding him to their 53. Whether that happens or not remains to be seen, but we'll find out. Sean Jolly's another one. He's been around what feels like 10 years. Not really, but since 2022. I mean, that's been a minute. So Jolly's another one. Like, where do they go with him? I don't think they keep him on the 53. Could see him as a practice squad ad. Same thing with Cam Lampkin last year. So these guys are all having good preseasons. I wouldn't be surprised if all of them were picked up, if I'm being honest with you. But AJ Green, I'm going to go with here at cornerback. And notice I didn't mention a certain name because at safety, I have them keeping 5 safeties. Quentin Lake, Cameron Curl, Cameron Kinchins, Jalen McCullough, and Josh Wallace. And I understand some of you are like, no Tanner Ingle, no Nate Valcarcel, Malik Dixon Williams. You went with Josh Wallace. Josh Wallace is a corner. He's not. He's actually been playing safety. He's been playing the star role, and he's been playing safety. And I found that really interesting. I've heard some really good things about him from people, you know, within the organization. They're high on him. I think Josh Wallace and AJ Green are the guys that they're going to keep. And I think they want to go into the season with 10 DBs. And I think that they feel really good about those guys. Now, I don't think Ingle, Valcarcel, or Dixon Williams will be claimed, but stranger things have happened. I think all 3 of these guys could be back on the practice squad. So Josh Wallace, AJ Green, surprise, surprise, they make the 53. They played the fewest snaps of any of the DBs in preseason. So for what it's worth, I think they're ahead on the pecking order. And then, of course, luckily for the Rams, they have the special teams unit locked down. Joshua Carty, Ethan Evans, and Alex Ward. There was no doubt about that one. That's your 53, at least my 53. Now, as a special treat, because this is the last one, I'm going to give you my 16-man practice squad projection. And understand this. Literally anybody that doesn't make my 16, if there's a difference, somebody, you know, whatever, like they decide not to keep a running back, whatever, it changes everything, right? So this is what I have. Running back, Cody Schrader. Going to be tough. I think he could very well be claimed. Running backs can work in this league no matter where you get them. I think they're going to be able to bring him back. If it was right after that Cowboys game, maybe not. I think they'll be able to bring him back as long as he doesn't go too crazy in week 3. Number 2, wide receiver, Konate Mumfield. I am not 100% he's going to be back, but I know the Rams would want him back at that point. I'm going to say there's a 60% chance Konate Mumfield passes waivers and he goes on the 53. And then number 3 is True Edwards. Now, Edwards was dealing with some injuries. He passed his physical. He was ready to go, comes off the PUP list, catches a touchdown, really showed out against the Chargers. I still don't think it's enough for him to get claimed, and so I think they'll be able to add him on the practice squad fairly easily. I'll give it a 98% chance. Brendan Presley's a little bit different. He's made some noise, over 100 yards too in that last game. I'm going to go with about, I would say 70% chance. I think Konate Mumfield has more of a chance of getting claimed, but I like Presley a lot. I hope they keep all 3 of those guys on the practice squad. Number 5 is Justin Dedek. I'm going to give this thing probably a 35-40% chance of him being on the practice squad. I think he's going to get claimed. He's a really good player. He just is. I'll say 45%. But yeah, I think that's tough. Wyatt Bowles, I'm going to give an 80%. I think there's still a 20% chance a team, picks him up. 7 is Laryl Murchison, another vet here, or the first vet of 3. I'm going to say he is going to stay with the Rams. A 95% chance he's on the practice squad if he doesn't make the team. Jack Heflin, I'm going to say 100%. He will be a Ram practice squad guy. Outside linebacker, Nick Hampton. I'm going to give that, let's see. So he'll be a vet. I'm going to give him I'm going to give 70%. He's somebody that could very well be added, right? So I'm not going to rule that out, but I'll give a 70% chance he's back with the Rams on the practice squad. Jamil Muhammad, I'm going to say is 100%. He'll be a Ram on the practice squad. Troy Reader, I'm going to say it's 100% that they'll do it. If he's not on the practice squad, he's on the 53, one or the other. He's going to be a Ram, so I feel good about that. Elias Neal, I'm going to say 75%, 25% chance it's actually Fields. But the 12th guy on the practice squad, I'm going to go with Elias Neal here over Tony Fields the second. Number 13 is Charles Woods. I don't know how to feel about this. I'm going to go with a 45% chance he's back on the practice squad, but I'll keep him in the projections. Cam Lampkin, I'm going to go with a 60% chance. Nate Valcarcel at number 15. I'm going to say is very likely. I'm going to give it a 90% chance. And Tanner Engel, I'm going to give it a 75% chance. So that is the practice squad. Schrader, Mumfield, Edwards, Presley, Dedek, Bowles, Murchison, Heflin, Hampton, Muhammad, Reader, Neal, Woods, Lampkin, Valcarcel, and Engel. I hope you guys enjoyed. Let me know in the comment section below if I missed somebody. Do you feel like they're going to make the 53 and you feel like somebody I had wasn't going to make the 53? Let me know all your thoughts below. I may not be able to get back to every comment, but I always read every comment. Whether you believe me or not, doesn't matter. I do it. I know I do it. So yeah, be sure to drop it. I'm going to be curious to see what the comments say. Appreciate you guys, and I'll see you guys soon. Later, folks. All right, guys. So once again, just want to let you guys know that you can check out my new side project, The Lounge. I interview athletes, musicians, actors, actresses, all the nine. So definitely check it out over on The Lounge with Jake Ellenbogen channel. Be sure to subscribe and enjoy. In case you guys haven't noticed, I do have a Discord channel for my community on this channel. And if you want to be a part of it, it is free. The link is in the description below. You can sign up. This is basically a 24/7 Rams channel, and we are almost at 1,100 members. So if you want to be a part of it, just hit the link in the description below.